meetings because our desire as Conservatives, of which, why are we having an emergency meeting today? We're having an emergency meeting today because we put forward a request to have these urgent meetings because of the Ethics Commissioner's report that came out last week. And I thought that the Bloc and the NDP thought it was also urgent because they co-signed the letter. But apparently now they come to the meeting and it's not urgent. It can wait. So I would urge members to reconsider their change of heart that's happened in this meeting to support the Liberals in hiding and covering up the corruption in the Green Slush Fund, because that's what it is. More delay is more cover-up. And if you vote for this amendment, in my view, you're voting to continue the Liberal cover-up in the Green Slush Fund.
Thank you, Mr. Perkins. I see no other speaker. No. Oh, Mr. Masse.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would like to speak for this, especially after that intervention, which is rather unfortunate because the Conservatives actually talked themselves out of one meeting that they would have had earlier had they actually moved appropriately on this. And first of all, I want to acknowledge that what we're talking about here specifically, when you do the math, which has always been the Conservatives' mortal enemy, there's actually 9 business days that we're talking about a difference here, because if we can't get the witnesses in the next 4 weeks, the time between that time period ending and then when we assume our responsibilities back here in the House on that Monday is 9 business days. And so that's what we're talking about as a difference here. And so I think it's pretty rich to actually come here and then chastise ourselves in the Bloc for agreeing to actually have a meeting to sit down with responsibility and in earnest to try to find a path forward, like we promised. When we actually dealt with this issue last to Parliament, we promised that we would return back to this once we got the reports. And we did so immediately when I was contacted right away, and I came over here. But just because the Conservatives are insisting on spending tens of thousands of dollars to have this 9 business days in advance, they try to chastise ourselves in the Bloc for trying to make Parliament work. And that's terribly unfortunate, especially given the fact that these members also filibustered days of this committee last Parliament. So for all their sanctimony about having to get to this right away, we could have actually been doing this work on last Parliament. But what we had last Parliament was the Conservatives filibustering on auto files and other things like that, chewing up this committee, chewing up other committees on a regular basis, not just on an individual aspect for here, submitting multiple motions, multiple places, multiple times, and they did so consistently. And if we want to talk about scandals, I mean, I've been around here long enough to see a lot of scandals. I mean, I could just list off a whole series of here from the there's the Liberal scandals on certain things, but there's also the Harper administration scandals, everything from electoral fraud to a whole series of different interventions when it comes to Airbus, comes to former Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. I mean, it can go on and on and on. We could do the relevance, that we could do all those different things, but at the same time, we want to get to the subject matter here at place, and that's why we actually sat down here. So the request that we have here in front of us to actually have the 2 meetings in this time frame was even at the sense a little bit optimistic. I'm trying to guarantee that we can get 2 independent witnesses. We actually can get prepared and ready, get House of Commons resources to restart down here, and then on the same time do so when we're looking at basically a week and a half difference of when it can take place. So I don't think it's very unreasonable, and I don't think that the Bloc is playing games on this. I think they came prepared to this meeting to find a solution with an alternative. I've been in discussions with different people, and it's going to be publicly chastised by the Conservatives to come here and then saying that we're actually in cahoots trying to stop for accountability of this is absolutely wrong for every single time we've actually agreed and had these meetings. And I won't let that stand on the public record, because the public record shows that we have been pushing this issue, even when I couldn't get the things that I wanted for the workers. And when we talk about the workers here, the Conservatives have not put forth anything on the whistleblowers here. And we have had testimony the last time we had here, not a single one of the organizations even mentioned the families and the whistleblowers of that. And I tried to actually work to get an amendment in the House of Commons on one of their official opposition days motion, but it was worded in a way that it couldn't allow for that. It was nobody's fault, just the way that it was. But we have families of these members. They just talk about, basically the Liberals and the scandals and so forth and just trying to tar it with that. Well, what about all the workers that actually had to leave their job, had to sign non-disclosure clauses that still haven't been dealt with today? What about the workers that couldn't actually carry their pensions over, had to cash out? What about the workers that actually had to find different types of employment and And then the new system that I have in place still doesn't give them the ultimate protection that I want, is that full public service protection as whistleblowers. We have all those issues there. So, Mr. Speaker and Mr. Chair, I take offense to the fact that it is characterization that this committee is not working. I take offense to the characterization the NDP and the Bloc are playing games with this when we came here to do the proper work and do the right thing. So over a few business days, they want to cheapen this entire process down, which is entirely significant. And even if we actually have those things that take place, and we did it within their time frame, you know what happens, Mr. Chair? We can't do anything as a committee till the House resumes anyways. There's very little that we can do until the House resumes with regards to this. We can't bring it to the chamber. We can't do any of those things necessary as well. And so now we have a chance to prepare and get ready and do something actually meaningful. And I think it's unfortunate that they characterize us and to go back in this House of Commons, I guess this is what the Conservatives want, is to go back to a dysfunctional House, the House of Commons. Because on an issue right here, and you look at consistently, even the Liberals have voted consistently to actually have hearings on this. Yes, there's been differences about how we approach it, who gets to come at certain times, the amount of time that's there, but they are on the record as well looking at this issue. And to do that, as we warm up to get back here in September to do hard work that's necessary and to poison the well right away when there's sincere efforts to do so, well, fine. They get their moment of glory, their clips, all those things that they want. But at the same time, they will not get what they want in this committee unless they actually cooperate in the terms of trying to make sure things are going to be done with sincerity, because that's the history of this committee. I'm sticking with it when I go back to make this place work. And if they want to come here and do these types of cheap tactics and games over serious issues, then shame on them just because they didn't get a few days of business time that they could actually have it. It's whining, complaining, sad, irresponsible, and shows a lack of class for a party that's supposed to be saying that they're going to be the next government.